Hey everyone, and welcome to another episode of Fab Fit TV. I am your host, Kim Barnes Jefferson, and I am a healthy living expert and fitness trainer, and I work with women to live their best possible life. I believe that anything is possible, and there is a fit person inside of every single one of us, and we just need to get over the obsession and perfection train that we've been on for a long time, to let that person come out and just take the pressure off of ourselves and just live. And here we are, it's just a few days before Thanksgiving, and I know most of us have probably seen Christmas things since I think before Halloween. I started seeing Christmas stuff, and so we're at the let's call it like the beginning of like the Super Bowl season, and it's really easy to get caught up. It's really easy to let just like the pressure of the holidays take over and forget what the meaning of Thanksgiving is, forget the meaning of Hanukkah, forget the meaning of Christmas, forget the meaning of Kwanzaa, and get caught up in making everything perfect. And so tonight I wanted to talk about, how do you take the pressure off? How do you enjoy the holidays without being a stress ball? How do you enjoy the holidays with less about it, and not feel like when whatever holiday you celebrate, when the day comes, you just feel like, thank God it's over. I want you to go in and smile and just say, you know what, this was the first holiday that I didn't feel overwhelmed. This was the first holiday that I didn't feel like, I had this much on my to-do list and I only got this much done. Or, I had all these expectations of the holiday and they weren't met. So how do we do all that without getting cuckoo? And one of the best things I wanted to talk about is just like, let's just talk about stress. Let's just call it what it is. Like, in our society today, it's pretty impossible to not feel stress. It is what it is. But when I say that, I don't say that, okay, you feel stressed, just deal with it. No, what I'm saying is feel it, recognize it, but we're going to come up with, I have 14 ways to come up with ways to counter that stress. And so, for most people, stress is real or imagined. And, I can tell you what stresses me out, and you're like, girl, it ain't nothing. And you can tell me what stresses you out, and we have the same reaction, and we can go back and forth. And sometimes I kind of feel like in our society that if we aren't busy, we aren't stressed, it's like a drug. It's like, it's not, if you're not busy or stressed, you're not living. And I gotta tell you, I want to stop that. I want to stop that busy, stressed ball from rolling down the hill further, because it's aging us, it's killing us, and no one benefits from that. Most people, what I find is that when you are stressed, you sleep less, you eat more, you eat less, just the whole hormonal balance in your body gets off, because, as much as we've evolved from the caves, our biological systems haven't really evolved that much. And, when you get into that stress state, your body still is thinking that, oh my gosh, we're living in the caves, and oh, she's being chased by a saber-toothed tiger. So we got to pump up all the adrenaline to make sure that she has the ability to run away from that saber-toothed tiger, when the saber-toothed tiger is, you're stuck in traffic. And you're not going to use all that extra energy, all that extra blood, all that extra oxygen for anything other than to yell at the person in front of you or yell at the car radio. There's no physical outlet for it, and your body is expecting a physical outlet, not a emotional outlet. And so you have all this extra hormones built up for no saber-toothed tiger. So the other side of the coin is that as we get ready for the holiday and we feel like we're not doing enough, we feel guilty. We feel guilty that, perhaps you're not hitting every holiday party. You feel guilty that perhaps you might be eating a little too much during the season. You might be not hitting the gym as much. So you have this list of like the things that you feel bad about, and then you beat yourself up about, and then that just adds more fuel to the fire. So the best way I always, when my clients kind of get into this, like, spinning out of control, I just say, like, deep breath, like, just take a step back. Like, if you were able to say, watch this on TV, like if you were able just to take a big step back and watch this all unfold on the TV, what's required of you right now? Like, in this moment, what's required? Not a nice to have, what's required? What do you need to do right now in order to be happy? What's needed right now in order for you to move forward in any goal that you have? Like, don't think 2 steps ahead, because what happens is so many of us, we think 2, 4, 20 steps ahead versus 1 step in front of the other. So think about, like, when you walk, you don't, like, if you walk too fast, you're gonna trip. Same thing as when you take too many steps at a time. So it's like, what's required of me right now? And sometimes you just have to say it out loud to yourself. It might seem weird at first, but after a while it seems a little soothing. It's comforting. It's like a whoopee. And that's how I always start. Like, when I feel myself getting like a little like, ugh, I just say, okay, chill, Kim. What's required of me right now? And then I just start with there. And it helps me slow down. It helps me not get ahead of the situation. In the words of Ice Cube, it helps me check myself before I wreck myself. So how can you check yourself before you wreck yourself? And I got 14 ways to do it. So the first thing, time out. Like, it's not just for your 2-year-old. Like, if you are spinning out of control, like I said, ask yourself the question, what's required of me right now? And how do you get out of the busyness, out of the overwhelm, so that you're not feeling like, blah, all the time? And it could be that you might need to go for a walk around the block just to clear your head, just to, like, get away from the situation. It's just sometimes sitting quietly, just being, and just kind of being in the moment. And if you have it, take a nice hot bath, put in some Epsom salt, some essential oils, and it's just a way for you just to, like, physically calm down your system. Just like, how your computer gets out of whack and you have to, reboot it, turn it off. That's what I want you to think about your body. Sometimes you need a reboot. If you can fit it in, a nice massage. And it doesn't even have to be something like long. Like, at the mall they have, chair massage, something, 15 minutes just to, like, move the energy around your body so that it's calming energy versus, like, kind of like you feeling like you're being shocked every 5 minutes. And then, like I said, that nice deep breath, like in and out. The other way to do it is be prepared. So, sit down, take some quiet time, sit down and just write out a list and say, okay, between now and whatever holiday you celebrate, what is the plan? And just write out every single thing, just dump it out of your mind so that it's just not floating out there. Just sit there and write it out. It might take a couple of days. You just might know, like, everything that you need to do. And then once you have that, chunk it, like, let's build a timeline. Let's chunk it out to see, is it something that's easily done? I mean, the beauty of our world today is that we have a lot of online activities that can be done. A lot of things that can be scheduled online. A lot of things don't physically require you to leave the comfort of your home to go do it. A lot of times it's something that you can easily, like, an app can whip off and do it on your phone, whatever. But it's like, if you get it all out of your head, and then you can sit down and you can, like, organize and say, okay, I can, in this, nook and cranny of my day, I can do this, so that you do have larger chunks of time that you can just relax, you can chill, so you're not feeling like you're running from here to there to there. Ask for help. Like, it's, if you have kids, involve them in the situation, involve them, even if they're young, there's still plenty of things that you can ask them to do to help take the pressure off of you. The other thing to think about is, if you're currently cleaning your own house, like, what if for the month of December, you hired someone to help clean your house? I mean, if you think about it, you're spending anywhere from 1 to 2 to maybe 3 hours, depending on the size of your house, cleaning. And if you just hired someone to come in like once every other week, that's 3 hours that you could do God knows what with. Hell, if you just want to sit on your tushy, you could sit on your tushy with that amount of time. But even like, you know, if you're having the holiday meal, it's not a bad thing if you ask someone to bring a side dish. People want to do that. They're like, how can I contribute to the meal? Like, we as humans, we like to help. So it's like, what can we contribute? You know, even if it's something as simple as, can you bring the napkins? Can you bring extra chairs? Something so that you're not worrying about like, oh my God, we don't have enough chairs. Oh my God, we don't have enough, whatever it is. Make sure you ask your guests, like, hey, Sally, you know, I'm cooking Thanksgiving. Would you mind bringing the desserts? I'm thinking about 3 pies. Awesome. Or if you have, you know, depending on how many people are coming, you could ask 3 different people to bring 3 different pies. It's totally up to you. And it's not a bad thing. Like, most people like don't want to show up to someone's house empty-handed unless you were raised by wolves. And then, you know, like I talked about earlier, the prioritization, you know, on that long list, let's cull it down. Like, what's a nice to have and what's a must have? You know, if you're someone who like, some people, a must have is a tree. Some must have is a live tree. So it's like, prioritize when you're gonna go and get that live tree. Other people are like, you know what, I can have a fake tree with some Christmas tree thread and it still feels the same way. Awesome. Some people are like, you know what, I don't need a tree to have the Christmas spirit. Totally your call. But prioritize what's gonna happen so that you don't feel like you have this like endless list. And then if you don't get to say the last 5, 10 things on your list, you're not gonna be like, Christmas sucked. Where if you just said, you know, if I get 1 through 10, it's gonna be an awesome Christmas. Everyone's going to have a great time. Then you win. So always like look for the win-win. Go for the biggies and ditch the nice to haves. You know, I know this one's gonna sound a little woo-woo, but sometimes a little spiritual. But meditate. I find that, you know, I made it last year around this time. I made it a commitment that I was going to meditate at least 5 minutes a day. And for me, in my time, I meditate at night. You can meditate at any point that you need to or would like to, but for me, it's easier to do it at night. And for me, it just helps. My mind goes, and it just races and races and races, and especially at nighttime. So it's, for me, it's a way to, you know, turn the switch from being active to sleeping. And so in meditation, you know, there's so many apps out there now that you can download on your phone. Headspace, Calm. There's a couple of things from Andrew Johnson. He does guided meditations on pretty much anything: success, weight loss, smoking, confidence, self-esteem, you know. So those are, you know, things that you don't have to do. You just literally like you pop in your earbuds and you listen to them talk, and you don't have to think about anything. They do, you know, they pretty much do it for you. All 3 of them are great. You just have to find what's going to work for you. And then, you know, think about it. This is the season of fun. You know, it's like, you know, the joy of the season. So how do you have joy? What brings you joy? And, you know, think about, and all the things as you're running around trying to find, you know, the perfect gift for Aunt Susie and the perfect gift for Uncle Harry. What about the joy? Is there, you know, a tradition that you can start? Is there a tradition that you already have? You know, maybe you like to go to the Nutcracker. I don't know. Maybe it's ice skate. You know, here in Boston, we have, you know, a bunch of different places that you can ice skate. You know, there's a number of tree lightings that you can go to, or once the trees are up and all the lights are up, you know, go and walk through and see the pretty lights, window shop. You know, what can you do that's not feels like you have to? What doesn't feel busy? You know, there's a lot of different activities that always happen at Christmas time, you know, and it doesn't have to be, it could be a free thing, it could be a paid thing, it could be a volunteer thing, you know. Right now, I'm sure there's hundreds of charities right now that would welcome any, you know, volunteer experience. Could it be going to a soup's kitchen and helping, you know, serve holiday meals? Could it be, you know, donating winter coats or holiday gifts for, kids that don't have families. There's so many places that you can, channel, good energy, and, it could be it could be the start of a family tradition. Every year, my parents, they don't give each other Christmas gifts. Instead, they adopt a family. And they've been doing that for, God, I don't know, 10, 15 years. And it's been a nice thing that, the money that they would spend on each other, they're like, you know what, we pretty much have everything we need. And they donate it to, they live in Florida, so they donate it to, a family down there. And it's just, who knows what, joy that you bring someone else. And, as they say, it's the spirit of giving. So, give to people that aren't as fortunate as you. And, it's your call, I'm not calling anyone an Ebenezer Scrooge. I'm just saying what I'm saying. And then once you have your list, where's the organization? Is it going to be, and it needs to be centralized, because I know that I'm the sticky queen and I put stickets everywhere all over my house. And then when it's time to go, I'm like, I forgot the one that I needed because I happened to be at that particular store. So I always tell people, put it in one spot. So, what are you? Are you a paper person? Are you Are you a paper person? Are you an electronic person? Are you a hybrid? I know for me, I'm a hybrid. So all of my important schedules are in here. But as far as lists, I put that on paper. So then I always have to make sure that, but I have to put it on one piece of paper. So that way I don't have 10 lists going. And then once it's on that piece of paper, I'm a little geeky. I'd like to color code. And so I color code it so that I can map out what is something that needs to be done outside of the house. So for example, blue means it's something that has to be done outside of the house. Green means something that I can do online. Yellow means something I have to ask. So for example, I might say I'm going to buy my mom a sweater, but I'm like, oh, I don't know what her size is. So I might have to call someone to get her sweater. So so you get what I'm saying? So as I go through my list, I highlight, but then I also, and say pink is something that I can delegate. So pink is something so maybe the sweater for my mom, I will call my sister and be like, hey, do you want to go get her the sweater and I'll get her something else? So that I'm not, we're not making the same trip, or she might be going and she's like, oh no, I'll just do it. And you're just like, all right, and nothing feels, as satisfying as you have that list, and depending on what you like to do, if you like to check, if you like to cross, but it just feels so good when you're done. And so that's why I still do it on paper, because nothing feels as good as that paper check mark. And who says that the holidays has to be about indulgences or overindulgences? Because I don't want anyone to wake up on January 1st and be like, what happened? I want you to wake up on January 1st and be like, you know what? I survived the season. I didn't lose my damn mind. I acted as if it was just another day. There wasn't any, most of us, as humans, we want to find blame or permission. And so here's the time of year where we go back and forth between the blame and the permission, right? So we can say, it's the holidays, so I'm giving myself permission. I'm taking myself off the hook. There's no guilt. I only do this at this time of year, blah, 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 blah. Then come January, I can blame the holidays. So it's this double-edged sword. And what happens is that, we all hear the statistic that you gain, most people gain anywhere from 3 to 5 pounds over the holiday season. Now, what most people don't hear is that typically if you gain that 3 pounds, what happens is most people won't lose it over the 365 days post the year. So let me make sense. So here we are in Christmas 2016. And if you go with hey, it's the holidays, I'm going to indulge, you might put on, 3 to 5 pounds. And a large majority of people don't lose the 3 to 5 pounds that they put on this Christmas season. So what happens is, we're going to fast forward to Christmas 2017, and you haven't gotten rid of that 3 to 5 pounds. You play the It's the Holiday game, and now you're up a total of 6 to 10 pounds. Does that make sense? So where we get the statistic is that most people don't lose it. So year over year over year, you're adding weight, you're adding weight, you're adding weight until, 5 years from now, you're like, what the happened? And then you're like, you know what? That's when people start to freak out. That's when people are like, diets don't work, blah, 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 blah. So if we find a way to de-emphasize the food at this time of year, de-emphasize the drink, it's all about sharing quality time with people that people that you literally don't see. I go to a Christmas party every year, and there are people I literally do not see except for at this party one time a year. And it's great to catch up, and I find I spend most of the time talking. So that way I'm not like hanging out at the buffet. I'm not hanging out with a drink in my hand. I'm just actively like, okay, I want to catch up. And, I kind of have a list of like, oh, I haven't seen so-and-so, I haven't seen so-and-so, I haven't seen so-and-so. I want to catch up on, give me what's been happening in the last 364 days since I saw you. It's okay. And I'm not saying don't have booze, don't have fun foods. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying just like you have a plan for not being busy, have a plan for when you go to the party. So if you are going to, a party at a restaurant that they have an amazing dish on the menu, have that dish, go for it. But be mindful of the other things that happen in that evening. Be mindful of the dessert, be mindful of the booze that's going around, so that, when you wake up the next day, you're not feeling the guilt, because that just takes like too much mental energy. But the energy that us ladies use for guilt, my God, we could probably cure cancer, and there could be peace in the Middle East. Who knows? And, I know that this time of year, trust me, I'm a warm weather girl, but when weather is permissible, get outside. There's something about humans and being in nature that just grounds us, that just, brings down all the kind of cuckoo that's going on. And as much as you can, just get outside, breathe in that fresh air, let the sun sit on your face, even if it's just for 5 minutes, just so that you can kind of, press the rewind button on your day. And it just, might bring you back into that festive mood after having, kind of a busy day. And, if you're the host, serve healthy food. I'm not saying that everyone needs to like eat this like, sawdusty kind of thing, but, maybe you make some healthy substitutes. Maybe if something requires, shortening, you find another fix. Maybe if something has a lot of sugar and salt and fat in it, you find a recipe that doesn't have as much, or maybe you scale back the amount of sugar, salt, and fat that you put in the dish, and it still tastes good. I want you to think of things being as flavorful and not focus on, it should be low fat, sugar free, all this other stuff. Things should still be flavorful, and there's plenty of flavors in plenty of ways to make things flavorful without sacrificing taste. And on my Pinterest page, you guys, I've been pinning like a maniac a bunch of different side dishes. So if you are still looking for a side dish, I'll leave it in the show notes, my Pinterest page. And speaking of show notes, you can always go over to fabfitsquad.com/livetv, and you would get all these 14 tips that I'm reading from right now. You get all these 14 tips for you to easily download, and that'll be available for you first thing tomorrow morning. And booze. I know, the holidays, everyone, wants to cheers, toast. Slow your roll on the booze. Booze is just empty calories. Booze, your body has no idea what to do with it. I know they say red wine's good for you, but still it contains alcohol, and your liver gets the alcohol. It's like, I don't know what this is, and it sends it to fats. It sends it to fat to be stored until your body says, "Hey, go up to your fats. Go up to the attic and grab that." And so, what I tell people is, for every glass that you have, every one glass that you have 2 glasses of something non-alcoholic, and preferably like water or sparkling wine. Water or sparkling water. So glass of wine, 2 glasses of water. Glass of wine, 2 glasses of water. And so that way you minimize waking up the next day with feeling like what happened, like you had a lampshade on your head and your tongue feels 2 sizes too big in your mouth. But you also help minimize the caloric intake. And the other thing is, like, especially on, Thanksgiving, people tend to eat a little bit earlier than normal.